how do you become successful? This is how to do it according to Jim Rohn.
Well, number one is do what you can. Here's number two, do the best you can.
It's not what happens, it's what you do.
If you will change, everything will change for you. Don't be a follower, be a student. Set a goal to become a millionaire. For what it will make of you to achieve it.
He claims that there are 5 major principles for success. The first one is philosophy. The second one is attitude, then action, then result, and then lifestyle. First major principle is philosophy.
And in my opinion, each person's personal philosophy is the major factor in how your life works out.
He gives 3 pretty nice and neat principles that you can follow. First and foremost is what is success and what is failure. Failure is an error in judgment done every day, while success is a discipline practiced every day. The second principle is if you can't do what is easy, then you can't really do what is hard. If you can't make your bed in the morning, well, how are you supposed to make super important decisions about your economical future or some project or some career choice, let's say? The third principle, and perhaps my most favorite, is that you can't often choose what happens to you in life or what you have. You know, you just kind of put there and then you have to deal with whatever has been given to you.
So that's a key phrase. It's not what happens, it's what you do. What happens is about the same.
But one thing that you can do is blame your philosophy. Hey, you liking this content so far? Why don't you consider leaving a little bit of a like and subscribe down below? Now with these 3 pieces kind of laid out, he starts building upon it. And one of the things that he lays out is that success is actually a rather simple process. Success comes from mastering simple processes, and generally for any area, there are only a handful to a dozen foundational principles. Meaning that whether it's any type of sport, whether it's YouTube or whether it's business, the foundational principles for any area are actually quite few. Overarchingly, he has a lot of fundamentals. Another one that is quite important is philosophical attitude. Philosophical attitude is defined as your interaction with things that happen in a positive manner instead of a negative one. Consider this. It's a big difference between saying I hate and I love, especially when it's negative things, right? There's a big difference saying I love that I was wrong versus I hate that I was wrong. Even though they're basically the same standpoint, the energy and the future prospects they carry are worlds apart. Now, not all the philosophies that you will come across will be good ones. One such philosophy that Jim Rohn makes an emphasis of mentioning is the philosophy of demand. Demand says that I shall have this, but not in a way of work or growth or increasing your capability. No, you just put down your foot because you're gonna get this without giving something else for return. Now, such a philosophy aims at raising the minimum for everyone, but they have core weaknesses to them on an individual perspective. For instance, there's a tendency to be reliant on working with others, meaning that if other people are not on board with your wants, then you will not succeed. And every now and then they have a tendency to rely on trickery, according to Jim Rohn. Now, the interesting thing is, he also says that people who rely on the philosophy of demand will always be at the bottom. Now, that's a pretty strong claim, but I think it's true. I mean, if you're not willing to increase your capability, increase what you're going to offer to the company, and you demand a raise, why should they? And is this a good long-term philosophy? Will it yield the things that you want in your life? In addition to that, Jim Rohn is very avid. If you pursue this philosophy, you will never be successful. Strong stuff. Strong like Swedish coffee, let me tell you. On a more productive note, he recommends a philosophy that is quite the opposite. The philosophy of performance. Now, what does that mean? Performance is unlimited. It's about growth, increasing your capabilities, working harder, smarter, have more yield per hour that you put in, and it will produce far more than what you will ever need. Another such philosophy that is also really good is the philosophy of the ant. Now, the ant, most of his summers, he spends preparing for winter. He never gives up. And if some obstacle comes in his way, what does he do? Well, he searches for a way around. He searches to find a way through. or he dies. That's some strong philosophy. And at the end of philosophy, he lays out questions to ponder.
Why we should work this hard? Why take that many classes? Why take the notes? Why read the books? Why work that hard? Why put yourself through the push-ups and the disciplines? Why? Good question, why? Best answer to why, I think, is the second question. Why not? Why not see how many books you can read, how many classes you can take, how many skills you can develop? Why not just become more valuable rather than wait? Why not see how valuable you can become to the marketplace and to your friends and to your family?
Why wouldn't you have a superior, powerful financial plan that's taking you to the places you want to go?
And my third question is, why not you?
Which brings us to the second major principle. Attitude. You must have a good attitude. There's no real substitution for this. You must have a good attitude about the past, about the future, about other people, and perhaps, above all, yourself. The third fundamental principle is action.
And here's the two parts to the labor. One, do what you can. Number two, do the best you can.
You have to labor. There is no way around that. You have to take your philosophy, your attitude, and produce action. Put it into discipline. Specifically, you need to start with the smallest of disciplines. Anything. For instance, I started a year ago, or 2 years ago now, Jesus, time flies, making my bed. Sit down and make a list of all the things that you can do. If you really want it, what can you do? And then build upon it as you go along. The second action, which is quite surprising to me, I did come across this one thing that was something I haven't really heard a lot talked about, which is really, really cool. The second action he recommends is education.
You may not be able to do all you find out, but you should find out all you can do. See, you don't want to wind up at the end of your life and discover that you've lived only 1/10 of it.
You must improve your education. Now, this doesn't mean you have to go to college and take a degree, but he does recommend reading books, taking classes, learning things, going to seminars, and not just the easy stuff, the harder stuff as well. Like, it's not always that fun to sit down and learn economics, learn what a business plan is, or learn some technical area within your field. Practically speaking, you should be spending about 30 minutes every single day learning something. Now, there are some keys to great actions that he gives. I believe this is from his audiobook. One key to great action is to serve many people. So instead of going around asking, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? Instead, ask, what can I do for them? What can I do for you? And at last, when it comes to great action, you must learn to enjoy it. Jim Rohn's most spectacular and perhaps the most important advice on action that he gives is this. It's actually the dangers of action. Movement doesn't mean progress. There is a tendency to feel like one is working really, really hard. You see the hours being put in, 10, 11, 12 hours. But then you look upon the results and there's very little to show for it. Perhaps you're just moving a lot, but progressing little. Now that is an important element of action. Be aware, 10 years of experience might just be 1 year of experience, repeated 9 additional times. And in fact, I came across this one short of him, which wasn't in any of the 4 or 5 lectures that I've seen or the audiobook. It was like something else that I must have skipped. It's not how many hours you put in, it's what you put in to the hours. And if you need a little bit of a personal example, that's essentially what I did for my first 10 years of doing YouTube. I just put in all my effort into dog and guess what came out? Dog. Surprised. I know, crazy, right? Brings us to the fourth principle. Results. You want to make measurable progress in reasonable time. You see, often when it comes to goals, it isn't necessarily about reaching them. It's about who you become on your quest to reach them. That is perhaps the most important part. Whenever you set a goal, it's sort of like a measurement of you. And each goal you set will teach you about your philosophy, your attitude, and your actions. It will be a guidance and also a reminder about what you want and who you want to be. And therefore, goals and results are of utmost importance. And when you struggle making a goal, pour on the pressure. And remember, at the end of the week, you should be revisiting and checking all of your goals. You see, according to Jim Rohn, success is but a numbers game. Which brings us to the last principle. Lifestyle. Also the principle that is perhaps the most neglected. Lifestyle is the art of living well. So fashion for yourself the type of life you want. But beware, more of anything will simply make you more of what you already are. Therefore, you should never neglect the step of lifestyle, as it is the only principle that, if neglected, can turn success to non-success. There's a reason why there's a lot of successful people who don't get to see the sunrise, right? They can have the money they want to, they can have the fame they want to, they can have the expertise and the skills they want to, but if they're lacking in some areas, then it doesn't really matter. I mean, ask yourself, would you want to be a billionaire and lonely with no children at 90? Is that really success? Now he gives one really interesting strategy at the end that I think you're going to absolutely love. I call it the student. There was no name to it, but it works. What? Back to preschool? No. Luckily not. But if you want to be happy, study happiness. If you want to be successful, study success. If you want to achieve something in an area, study achievements within that area. Don't be lazy in your learning. And now, you are one step closer to greatness.